Thank you for that music, thank you for the reading, and thank you for everything you do, Reverend Debbie. So in March, our theme is growing together in love, light, and possibilities. And today, the title of the message is Utilizing Your Invisible Power. Now, I know you guys have never heard me say this before, but there is one power in the universe. And that power that created everything and everyone is the same power that experiences life in, through, and as its creation. You know, if we can just remember this and hold on to it, our lives are going to be filled with joy and happiness and enthusiasm and all good. Not only our lives, but we can take that power within and not only bless our own lives and the lives of our loved ones, the people in our communities, we can bless the world at large. And I am a big believer of, if we speak our word, if we live our lives, if we take care of this person right here, we lift up the consciousness of everything and everyone. And I believe it's important for us not only to pray affirmatively for our families, in our communities, and our people in our surroundings, but also to speak our word for the world. I mean, yeah, it seems like a big deal, but when you think about it, again, that power that created everything is the power within us, so we can make a difference in this world by our thoughts and our words. And when we do that, when we declare good in our life, good comes to us. We get blessed. Ask anybody in here. We receive blessings in our life. And when we receive blessings in our life, typically we develop a little gratitude for that good in our life. And with that, I'm going to invite Celeste Haskell up to say a few words about her life and how that has developed into some gratitude. I hope I did that right. Celeste?
Hello, I have figured out that I do better holding the mic.
Okay, but put it back where you
I will, I promise. I practiced before I came up here. Thank you both for giving me the opportunity to talk about some infinite possibilities and some gratitude. I have many examples, but we always start with our first, right? And my first was 24 years ago, at this time, March. So March, I not only celebrate my birthday, but I celebrate that I'm still here. Because 24 years ago at this time, I'll just say it straight, practitioner. Won't get into the story, but I almost died. And I had one night in particular in the hospital where I was having trouble breathing. And I realized I could just let go and just bypass all of this. And I remember I just kept breathing. It was a conscious choice. And oh my God, if I'm making a conscious choice at this basic level, where else in my life do I have a choice that I am not making? And that was my just clearest, most dramatic, expression of infinite possibilities. Fast forward a little bit, I relearned how to walk, and I walked myself right into a CSL church. And I sat down, I took a deep breath, and I listened to the message, and if you're like me, you went, I'm home. This is where I'm going to learn the tools that will lean into this understanding I now have of infinite possibilities. Because 24 years ago, the prognosis was not good. So I took the classes, and I did the work. And I realized, I'm here for a reason. Divine Idea was giving me the tools I would need to walk this really delicate path. For 24 years, twice as long as the doctor said I should still be here. So I leaned into that infinite possibility. And that leads to the gratitude of it all. How grateful I am that I wandered into a church. and got these tools. So I wake up every day grateful that I can get out of bed by myself. And I go to bed every night thinking how blessed I am. I have a roof over my head, I have food in my fridge, I have gas in my tank, and I'm still here. So yeah, March is a pretty special month for me. I get to celebrate my birthday, and I get to celebrate standing in that infinite possibility. And I think they're interchangeable, infinite possibility and gratitude. You almost can't have one without the other. So, as the teacher and practitioner that I am, I'm going to tell you, you're sitting in this chair. You wandered in. You're online. Dig deep. Take classes. Learn these tools. Because every one of us has that moment where we either get weird and pissed off and angry at the world for the tragic in our life, or we go, wow, that was weird. What's next? And step into that infinite possibility. And then let your shoulders drop from that feeling of grace and gratitude. So thank you for this opportunity to share. Thank you. I had a great time.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good.
Lovely. Perfect. Yeah, isn't it nice to hear kind of from the horse's mouth once in a while how this philosophy works? Now, Reverend Debbie and I in the last few weeks have been talking about this lady named Genevieve Behrend. She was the woman that Thomas Troward took on as a student. And she wrote a book called Your Invisible Power. And this is what we're talking about today, this idea about utilizing the invisible power. We like to think in this center and in our philosophy of science of mind that we're pretty pragmatic. We use this stuff. It's not just a Sunday get a shot in the arm, but it's something that we can live and use and be comforted with and strengthened by and led by every day of the week. Ernest Holmes says there's a power in the universe for good and we can use it, and I think that it's important and it is helpful and it is imperative to also use our imaginations, as Neville and Colleen were talking about earlier. And I'm going to tell you a story. Some of you have heard this story before. I know I've told the story before, and if you were here, you probably heard it, but it took place in the 1400s in Italy. And there was a commission to create a series of 12 large biblical statues. Took 60 years for the first two to get done. And then they hired an artist named Agostino di Deducci. He was going to work on the third one. So he worked for a couple years, and then, according to the records, his association with the project ceased. He probably got canned. So then they hired another guy, and I looked into the works of just, you Google them and you see their Wikipedia, and they bring up some of the statues that these guys created, and I mean, like I know, but they sure looked fine to me. So why they couldn't, the next guy was a guy named Antonio Rossellino, and he too worked for a short time and then gone. Why they weren't able to complete the statue, nobody seems to know, because they were certainly, according to some of the other statues they did, they should have been capable to do this. But then for 25 years, this big slab of marble that they had hauled in from northern Tuscany at considerable hard work and expense laid in the yard of the workshop of the cathedral. Just laid there 25 years, kind of crumbling and whatever they do. I don't know how that works, but nobody was working on it. So after 25 years, in 1501, they decided we got to get somebody in here working on this statue. So they started the interview process all over again. They interviewed Leonardo da Vinci, and many others. But the guy that finally got the job was a 26-year-old Michelangelo. And he's the guy that after 2 years had produced this wonderful statue of David. And what he said, his premise was that David was in this statue and all he was doing was carving away anything that wasn't David. He said, I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free. Isn't that lovely? And so Michelangelo was using that invisible power to create what he created, a statue of art that has certainly met the test of time. People still really go to view it, and it's just, oh, did you see it? Yeah. So anyway, this is the power that is within all of us, this power of our imagination, this invisible power. Albert Einstein said, I am enough of an artist to draw freely upon my imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. He also said, logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will get you everywhere. So sometimes we take that gift that we have for granted, and we certainly don't use it in the right way. So Ernest Holmes says this, there is an irresistible, universal, and divine urge within us to be happy, to be whole, and to express the fullness of life. The latent divinity within us stirs our imagination, and because of its insistent demand, impels and compels our growth. It is back of every invention. It proclaims itself through every creative endeavor. It has produced sages and saints and saviors, and will, when permitted, create a new world in which war, poverty, sickness, and famine have disappeared. Now, you know, Ernest was the ultimate optimist, but he knew that we, using our imagination as a power, all of us, we can lift the consciousness of this world and make the world a better place. Obviously, we still have a little work to do. So it's not just theology, it's science, and I'm just going to give you an example of this. At the Harvard Medical School, there was a neuroscientist, Alvaro Pascal Leon, and he taught a group of students a little 5-finger piano exercise. He took the group and he divided into 2 parts. And the one group, they had come in for 5 days in a row and for 2 hours practice on the piano, this little 5-finger exercise that was their assignment. And after 5 days of practice, the motor cortex devoted to these finger movements had grown significantly. You know, as we practice, the brain does something, works with us. So the second group, same thing, they had to come in for 5 days in a row and for 2 hours practice, but they didn't have a piano to practice on. They practiced in their imagination, in their mind. And to the great surprise of the researchers, they discovered that the region of the motor cortex that controls the piano-playing fingers also expanded in their brains, just as it has in those. And I don't know, maybe you've heard these stories too, particularly I've heard stories of people that were held in prisoner of war camps and isolated for 4 or 5 years, and some of them did things like practice their golf stroke in their head. And when they came out, their golf score actually improved because they had been practicing it in here. Our brains, our imaginations are so powerful. After this experiment, Time magazine said, in other words, they discovered that imagination can actually alter the physical structure and function of our brains. Imagining creates new neural pathways in your brain which will make permanent changes in your life. So how imperative is it that we use our imagination. Our brains will react to that. So we're going to do a little experiment. I have no idea how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to ask you to do this. Put your hands palm up, close your eyes, and keep them closed for the whole experiment. Doesn't take long. Keep them up. And imagine that someone places a book, a big book, in your right hand. And then the person places another book in your right hand, and another book, and another book in your right hand. And then imagine that in your left hand, someone ties a helium balloon to your wrist, and then another, and another, and another. Now open your eyes and see where your hands are. Okay, first, and I didn't know where this was going to go. I've never tried this before, but you can put your hands down. So I had two ways to respond to this, and one way was, isn't this amazing what our imaginations can do? And the other was, I think we have to work a little bit on our imaginations. And I think that this group probably was 50-50. Some of you, I could definitely see the left hand go up and the right hand go down. So our imaginations are powerful. Genevieve Behrend, this gal that was the pupil of Thomas Troward, in her book, Your Invisible Power, tells a story about the Wright brothers. She says that one brother would tell the other when their varied experiments didn't turn out as expected. The one brother would say to the other, "It's all right. Brother, I can see myself riding in that machine and it travels easily and steadily." They were encouraging each other by saying, "Don't worry about it. I can see it." You know, that's where we have to start. We have to be able to see what it is that we want in our lives. See it. And what can we imagine? And sometimes, of course, this mind works the opposite for us. We imagine what we don't want. Oh, I can imagine what that traffic is going to be like this morning. Oh, I can imagine the bills I'm going to have by the end of this month. Oh, I can imagine so-and-so's going to be at that gathering, and what a bummer that is. You know, we imagine these things in our lives that are not useful to us. Wayne Dyer writes in his book, Wishes Fulfilled, highly functioning, self-actualized people simply never imagine what it is they don't wish to have as their reality. You know, people that are very successful, self-actualized, don't go there. And we can do that. We can practice keeping our thoughts positive and constructive. When we see those negative thoughts popping up here and there, we can say, "I see you, but no, you're of no use to me," and I just dismiss them. So another way that we can misuse this amazing power is when we let our imaginations be restricted to the current conditions of our lives. And if we only look at what is and fail to look at the big picture and make that big picture, what are we going to see? We really restrict ourselves. Neville, in his writing The Power of Awareness, writes, "Disregard appearances, conditions. In fact, all evidence of your senses that deny the fulfillment of your desire. Rest in the assumption that you are already what you want to be. For in that determined assumption, you and your infinite being, capital I, capital B, are merged in creative unity, and with your infinite being, all things are possible." I mean, he was convinced that we could use our imagination for our good. So how are you using your imagination? You know, are you using it the way that's going to be positive, constructive, or are you kind of letting it go with that worry stuff, fret stuff? We can control that. And I am going to suggest that for a little homework this week, you think about this. You use your imagination. Maybe sit down with a paper and pencil and write down, what is it? Who is it that I want me to be in this life? How do I want my life to look? Make it personal. And then go a step further and write down, how about the world? How do I want the world to look? And again, it seems like, yeah, maybe it's a little Pollyanna, but the fact is, I was going to look this up. I was thinking about this driving here today. Wasn't it one of those Margaret, who's the lady that's the philosopher that, is it Margaret Mead that wrote? Anyway, she wrote something like, the only thing that will change the world is our communal changing of our minds. I'm really butchering that, but I only thought about it driving, so I couldn't look it up. But that is the truth. We as a people, as we know that our power is within, that invisible power, we can make a difference, not only just in our own lives, but we can raise the consciousness of the whole world. So I'm going to end with another quote by Einstein and then go into a spiritual mind treatment or an affirmative prayer to end this service. So Albert Einstein says, and I use this sometimes in weddings that I do. I think it's perfect for a couple to know going into a marriage. Your imagination is the preview of life's coming attractions. Isn't that lovely? Your imagination is the preview of life's coming attractions. We can make that happen. We can have an effect on that. We can play our part in the use of this invisible power by use of our imagination. So let's just take a deep breath, relax where we are, knowing there's nowhere else to be. Just let our body relax. Listen to my words. I'm speaking this in first person, but it applies to all of us. I know there is but one power in the universe, and it is a power for good. It is all good. It is peace and love and joy and beauty. It has the perfect solution to any perceived challenge or dilemma in my life. And I know that very power that created everything and everyone is the same power that experiences life in, through, and as its creation, in, through, and as me. And even though in the past I have sometimes imagined the very things I don't want, made a little picture of the things that scare me, planted seeds of things I really don't desire, even though in the past that may have been the case, I now declare that I intend to use my imagination to create what I truly desire, create joy and love and happiness and ease in my life. And a step further, thinking of the world, peace and harmony and abundance for all, the whole world. So with gratitude that this is the way it works, as Jesus said, it is done unto you as you believe. I release these words now to that beneficent conspiracy for perfect manifestation. So it is. So it is.